Here's what's coming up on episode 73 of the Big Seance podcast. Chris Medina.
So again, August 8th came. I was making, me and my partner with a combined income, we were making over $200,000 a year. We were not hurting for money. And I was being told, this is not where you're going. This is going to end soon. You better start preparing for it. I said, this is it. I am being told this happened for a reason. I'm going to be put on my path now. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, I think I need to start doing my readings. And I was told, don't ever get used to your material possessions again, because just as fast as you accumulate them, it's as fast as they'll be gone. And I've really learned that. I've really learned I can make a home anywhere that I go. It doesn't have to be the same place all the time. Spend a couple minutes with me face to face, and I can pretty much guarantee that if you're a hardcore skeptic, you'll walk away with some of that kind of peeled off a little bit. I woke up and I heard the door was open to the room, and I had heard the carpet shuffling, and I looked, and it was the little girl, and I thought it was my sister. And this is this was in front of my face. It wasn't that snapshot. It was a little girl, and I thought it was my sister, and she looked at me and she put her finger to her mouth and was like, shh, like kind of like, be quiet. Was racist in his regular life and was racist on the other side. I mean, the first thing that she said, well, are you picking up anything on my dad? And I'm hearing all this cussing going on. I said, I'm getting a lot of racist statements coming out of this man. And she said, that's my dad. I always have sage on me. Yeah. I've been known to go into the bathroom at a restaurant and pull a piece of sage out of my pocket when it's gotten so intense to kind of calm myself down.
Welcome to the Big Seance podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the seance. So all of a sudden this week, I'm once again rocking the classic beginning of the school year teacher voice. And so I hope you'll understand why I sound like one of the Budweiser frogs today. How many of you have noticed that everybody seems to be decking the halls for Halloween? And here I am. I've been so busy with school and fitting in a podcast whenever I possibly can and falling asleep at dinner or at my desk. And I've realized, wow, I'm usually the one who declares it fall about 2 months too early. And there was a time when my place would have been all Halloweened up by now. I've just been so busy that I haven't. And Halloween is creeping upon us, let me just tell you. So I guess I'm just going to have to make some time, I suppose. As you decorate for Halloween, I want to invite you to share those images in the Big Seance Parlor on Facebook, or you could even just email it to me, patrick@bigseance.com, because I apparently just need some inspiration to get our place decorated and maybe a few naps to have the energy to do that. Well, if I disappointed you with, slacking off on the decorating, I think I may just earn a few Paranerd points back by telling you something so very cool that I'm super excited about very soon. And I'm not telling you exactly when because I don't want creepers, but very soon I'll be checking into the Lemp mansion in St. Louis to stay for an evening. I've talked about the Lemp mansion before, and I've been there, but never overnight. It's a popular spot for local paranerds around here, and it's been featured on Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, and probably a few other shows, I'm sure. It's got a super eerie history with several suicides in one family documented over a, period of years. And of course, it's supposedly very haunted. And, it also has its own character and beauty inside. I think it's a cool place. I've got a blog post with a lot of pictures that I took from my iPhone, at least 5 or 6 years ago. And so I'll even try to include that link in the show notes so you can see the photos that I took on my last tour there. But here's the thing. When I stay, I'm not taking anyone with me. It's going to be just myself and you. And by that, I mean the recorder. And because I've had several conversations with folks who have stayed overnight at the Lemp before, and I'm talking about accommodations here, not like an investigation, but when you stay during the week, often the other 3 suites won't be booked. There are a total of 4 suites. So many people have experienced being the only ones there during the week, which is when I'll be there. So there's no way to know until I check in, but won't that be something if I'm the only one there overnight at the haunted Lemp mansion by myself? I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous. But who knows? It might end up that, all the rooms are booked with noisy, crazy people. So we'll see. Stay tuned. One bit of voice feedback this week, and this one is from Diana.
Hi, Patrick. It's Diana. Just wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed the Haunted America Conference podcast. There are so many links for me to follow. So thank you very much, and you did a great job walking around with the mic. Wish I could have been there. Bye.
Thank you, Diana. The Haunted America Conference was such a cool experience for me, and so I hope to make it a tradition now. And speaking of Troy Taylor and conferences, in just a little over a week, on April 24th, I'll be a speaker at Troy's American Hauntings Fall Festival in Jacksonville, Illinois. I'm super excited about it. And, I'm sure I will have a fabulous voice by that time. So let me know if I can expect to see any paranerds there. I know that there are paranerds from all over. And so I know Jacksonville, Illinois isn't necessarily everyone's neighbor, but let me know if you think you'll be there. And maybe in the next episode, I'll give you a report on how it all went.
You're listening to the Big Seance Podcast with Patrick Keller. Look for us on iTunes and be sure to check out bigseance.com for more discussion.
International Podcast Day is September 30th, and you can help spread the word. International Podcast Day is dedicated to promoting podcasting worldwide. You may be asking, what can I do to get involved? It's pretty simple. First, head over to internationalpodcastday.com and check the suggestions. Second, use hashtag Podcast Day to join in the conversation. Remember September 30th. Now, let's start the conversation.
And now this brings me to the main event for today. A couple of months ago, I invited psychic medium Chris Medina to the Big Seance Parlor. So let's pour the tea and get right to it. So welcome, Chris Medina. How are you? Welcome to the Big Seance Parlor.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Been dying to do this.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I've heard you in several interviews over the last couple of years, and I'm really excited to get to talk to you finally. You're touring now, right? Or are you finished touring?
No, I'm down for a couple weeks, and then I'm back out next week.
So where have you been, and where are you going?
Oh, wow. I spent a lot of time on the East Coast. Originally born and raised in Los Angeles, met a great woman, Katie, that's kind of managing me and mentoring me. Got me, I was actually on her podcast. We ended up hitting it off, and she asked if I wanted to come to New York to do some speaking engagements and maybe some readings on certain people. Went out there, ended up staying out there for about 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of events at event houses there. I did the Soho House. It's a kind of like a members only type of club that's kind of nationwide, and they have some international spots as well. So I did the one in New York. I did Los Angeles. Going to set up to do Miami. So I've been doing a lot of traveling with that as far as, again, speaking engagements, touring, private readings. I do a lot of celebrity readings. So that keeps me busy. So I'm able to kind of like, when I'm down at the hotel, kind of get on my Skype and give readings that way in my downtime. I'm busy. I did Mexico as well, too.
Lots of places with tons of energy going on. I don't know where you normally reside, but how is that like all of a sudden going into spending some time in like New York City or LA and having to just kind of take it all in and do readings?
That's a good question. It can be overwhelming at times. I can be a social butterfly, but I'm very, very much a loner. Just like you, I like to stay home. I like to be comfortable in my own place. I pick up a lot of energy in, going to different airports or sitting on a plane, doing these events, all that energy comes, it just bombards me. So, being home, I have the ability to kind of center myself and get back to who I am. Traveling, it's just all over the place. It's overwhelming.
I get traveling is overwhelming for me. I don't do it very often, and I like it once I'm there, I guess, and relaxed. But the part of getting there and all the hubbub in between it's rough. And I can't imagine if you're so sensitive to energy and things like that, that would be even more rough.
Yeah, my mentor was like, you have like this look on your face, like, that you're irritated or what's going on. I'm like, you have to remember something. I come from a different spot than you do. I mean, she's in the entertainment industry too, but what she does is very technical, and what I do has a lot of emotion to it. So I'm constantly, I would tell her I'm picking up on this person, or when we're sitting at the airport and there's people around, or we're sitting there waiting for the event to take place, I'm picking up on all the energy. I can actually hear questions that people have in their heads sometimes, or the energy they're putting out. Like I always hear "pick me" or "oh, I wish you." It is overwhelming, and it requires me to have at least 5 to 10 minutes of downtime before the show begins.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, many of my guests are psychics or mediums, and I think you're only the third male psychic that I've had on the show. Is it accurate to say that most psychic mediums tend to be female, or is it maybe that there are more men with intuitive abilities that aren't open about what they experience?
I'm going to go with that. I think that men, I recently posted on a blog about reading men, and they're so hard. I mean, especially, not to knock anybody in their gender or their race or their orientation, but a lot of straight men have a hard time opening up and talking about what they're getting. I actually have spoken to men that possess abilities like that, and they're like, well, I just thought I was going crazy, or maybe I thought I shouldn't say it. So a lot of them, for lack of a better word, are closeted when it comes to that, and the women have more, it's more interesting to hear, or a crowd feels more comfortable when it's coming from a female, with that type of energy where it's more like laid back, and it's, where they can allow themselves to be nurturing and a little bit emotional during a reading, where a man kind of, tenses up or doesn't know how the crowd's going to receive them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So describe your abilities for us. I know that's probably a loaded question, but tell us a bit about how you work.
I was born this way, born psychic. My abilities work. It depends. If I pick up immediately on that person when I see them. I pick up thoughts that they're having, or I get glimpses of what they were like as a child, or things that are happening to them, health issues. I'll pick up things from other people that are, if they're not in contact with me, I'll just get what I call my hits. what my guides give me. We'll go into the medium type thing too, where that doesn't always work though. A lot of times people will say that they'll want a reading from somebody on the other side, and not all the time they'll come through.
Mm.
So the psychic stuff is always there. It's always on. I cannot shut it off. I am constantly getting hits. Last night couldn't sleep, was up all night. The energy in the house was just crazy. A lot of cracking, a lot of popping. It's constant. It allows, again, I pick up on intention. So a lot of times, I got blamed as a kid. Oh, you're always making things difficult, or you jump to conclusions, and it was a battle talking to my mom about it, telling her, no, you don't understand. I know what they're thinking. I know what they want to do, or why they're being this way. And I never thought in a million years, again, as a kid growing up, that I was psychic. If you ask any of my family members or friends that I grew up with that I'm still close to this day, to say that, oh, Chris Medina is psychic, they'd be like, really? And then now that they're seeing me and I'm exposed and I've been on television, radio, now they're like, that makes perfect sense. We always went to you for advice. We just thought it was advice that you were giving us. So yeah, even to this day, my family and friends are kind of like, wow, psychic?
Well, and I can tell you just from, the interviews that I've heard with you, and you've got some really cool appearances that you list on your site, and even cool videos that you've done. And you don't waste too much time when you jump in, when you start getting things. And it's kind of cool that, it's there, and you jump right on in and you don't hold back.
Yeah, that's the biggest question. The very first question that I ask, especially when I do events where I'm at like at the Soho House and things like that, where there's like 70 to 80 people that are there, where it's completely packed, and they want me to do, gallery type readings where I bring them on the stage. I'll ask who wants a reading, and everybody raise their hand. I bring them on, and it kind of adds to the time, but I will always ask them, is there anything you want me to stay away from? And they're like, no, tell me everything. And I'll spend at least 15 to 20 seconds right before I start reading them to the crowd, telling them, okay, well, here's what I'm getting. And there was one gentleman that I was reading on, that wanted a reading on stage. And I'd said, well, let's talk about, I said, do you really want me to bring up the identity issues that you're having? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, I think you know what I'm talking about. And he was closeted, and a couple of his colleagues were there in the audience. He said, nope. I had no idea that you were going to pick up on that. Don't go there. Yeah, or people that have health issues that are they tend, when you think of psychic or medium or intuitive, you always think of that palm reading sign, $10 palm readings here or whatever. They always think it's going to be more of like, more, not to knock love and light, but they're thinking it's more love and light. Like, you're going to tell me that, I'm going to be fine and my career is going to flourish, or this and that or whatever. And I always my guides always tell me what to tell them immediately. Like, here's what's going on. Here's what they need to change. Here's what they're asking about. Here's what they need to know. And I will tell them that. I'll spend, depending on how long the reading is, if it's a half an hour long or an hour long, I'll spend the first 15 to 30 minutes discussing what I'm getting for them, and leave the rest of the time open for them to ask questions about what they really want to know, or to delve in deeper about what it is that I was getting. And that always trips people out, because they're thinking, wow, I had no idea it was going to be this intense.
Well, I think probably the person who is getting ready to maybe get a reading for the first time, or maybe they aren't around this type of thing often, I think it's probably one of the main questions we've all had is, wow, how far can they read into me? And do they really immediately know certain things? And it's probably an anxiety that people have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always get people will tell me, what are you staring at? Why are you giving that person dirty looks? And it's not that I'm giving, if you and I were to go have lunch together, you'd be like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Because I'm constantly getting stuff. So if the waitress comes up, I don't mean to do it. I'll just look at them, and I'll try not to make eye contact with them. And but it's always on, and people will say, what are you doing? Do you have a problem? It looks like you're judging me. And I said, no, how do you tell somebody I'm just getting stuff off of you?
And it's normal.
And it's normal.
So when was that moment for you? I mean, you said you've had these abilities your whole entire life.
Mm-hmm.
When was it that you decided that this would be your life's work, and why do you do it?
That happened on August 8th of 2014. I had been told, my background has been in the insurance industry. I just turned 40 this year. I was in the insurance industry. I worked for every major insurance company within the Southern California area. We're talking Blue Cross, Blue Shield. And I was always told, I was good at what I did, but I was always told since I started working, even at a young age, this is not what you're going to be doing. There's going to be lessons that you're going to need to go through to prepare you for what's to come. And I kind of thought, again, not really wanting to call myself psychic. I kind of thought, well, what is this? And things always had a way of working out for me where it was time to, again, I'm a creature of habit, where it was time where they cut it loose, where if I didn't cut it loose, it'd be dragged on and on. I'd be wasting time. So again, August 8th came. I was making, me and my partner with a combined income, we were making over $200,000 a year. We were not hurting for money. And I was being told, this is not where you're going. This is going to end soon. You better start preparing for it. And I was like, no, I'm guilty of it too, of just not wanting to listen to certain things. And I said nope, and had a huge blowout with family. I was working for a family-owned company, and I knew immediately. I said, this is it. And that was a real low point. A lot of words were exchanged, and I knew how bad it was. And I told Jay, I said, this is it. I am being told this happened for a reason. I'm going to be put on my path now. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, I think I need to start doing my readings. This is what's going to end up happening. This is the path that I'm going to have to go down now. It's time to start getting it together. And he said, well, how are you going to do that? And I said, I don't know. Let's just start putting me out there. Let's start getting together with the community out here, and start doing events out here. See what the metaphysical community is like. And I got involved with that. Jay booked me Comic-Con, Rose City Comic-Con in Portland. Was the first psychic to ever do a Comic-Con. And then it just kind of snowballed after that. I mean, Jay is very, very good at getting me, presenting me opportunities. And I, got on several podcasts, put my name out there, got the attention of the current person that's managing me now, got TV opportunity, radio opportunity, been traveling across the world. I mean, I tried, when things got tough, I was thinking, what am I going to do for money? I mean, I can't. What if I don't have a readings this day? We still need to pay the rent. I got 2 kids. I got house note to pay for, groceries that need to be paid for. I tried, I said, maybe I should look for a job on the side, get back in the insurance industry. Nothing worked out. And when I asked for money, I got it, whether it was in the form of, 5 or 6 readings being booked out, for a day, or, my manager calling, telling we're going to be doing this. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. Everything else has been shut off to be focused on this. So I guess to answer your question, I really had no choice.
I think what you just described is probably something that everybody can relate to. Mm-hmm. I think most people have probably been at that place where they feel a shift, or they want to make a change, and it's that scary moment, the scary thoughts in your brain that, do I make the jump? Is it silly? What do I do? Do I stay here?
Yeah, it was, again, I can say it over and over again 100 times. I'm a creature of habit. I'm a homebody person. We've changed houses within the last year. We've changed 3 different houses within the last year. And I was told, don't ever get used to your material possessions again, because just as fast as you accumulate them, it's as fast as they'll be gone. And I've really learned that. I've really learned I can make a home anywhere that I go. It doesn't have to be the same place all the time. So they were kind of preparing me to get out of my comfort zone in preparing me for all these changes. And again, I've been away from home, from my family and traveling, and it's hard because all I want, again, I'm very emotional and very sensitive to changes in the environment and people around me, that I just, it was a difficult transition, but well worth it. Well worth it.
So kind of going back to readings a little bit, how important is validation for you?
It's extremely important. That's why I spend the first 15, 20 minutes talking to that person to kind of, I don't ask any questions other than, what do you want me to stay away from? And kind of go into it, and they'll tell me. Again, like before I used to stress so much, give me something that I can tell this person as soon as they walk in to confirm that they've met the right person. And they would tell me, they at the very, very beginning when I first started doing it, they would give me little glimpses. I read some lady that got involved in a horrible car accident where there was fire involved. I told her that as soon as she walked in. And now it's not even like that anymore. It's just more of like, I've been told, you'll know as soon as you hear their voice. You don't need it anymore. And then I'll tell them straight up, here's what I'm getting. Feel free to stop me at any time. Feel free to call bullshit anytime that, you feel like it's not going in that direction. That's my confirmation.
So if I gave you one word, which is skepticism, give me your thoughts.
Skepticism. The first thing I think of is men. Yeah. Skepticism. I can't speak for anybody else, any other intuitives or psychics or mediums, only for myself. Spend a couple minutes with me face to face, and I can pretty much guarantee that if you're a hardcore skeptic, you'll walk away with some of that kind of peeled off a little bit. I just do that to people. The person comes and pays me for a reading. I'm giving them, I feel it's my obligation and my duty to give them what it is that they're truly, what their soul's truly looking for and what it needs to hear. And sometimes it's not always good for that person, but pardon my language, I don't f*** around when it comes to that. How can I put this? I guess I'm putting my own opinion on it. I think that, again, you're coming to somebody for advice, for insight. Why wouldn't you want to hear it? Why? You're obviously that person obviously wants to make changes in their lives, or they're coming to me for a reason. Why wouldn't you want to hear it? Why wouldn't you want to take a couple seconds just to hear what I have to say, and then decide for yourself right then and there if it works for you or not? And sometimes people, again, with skepticism too, I find that some people just don't want to let go. They have a real hard time looking at themselves and realizing that they're the problem. And I get that all the time. People are like, no, and I'll sit there and I'll form a relationship with some of these people, through business or, and it's making it personal as well too. And what they were telling me in the reading, no, that doesn't make sense to me. And as I get to know them and we start talking, I'll always go back to the reading and say, wait a minute, when I asked you that during the reading, you said no. So a lot of times that skepticism, that person feels they need to have exact or it needs to be exact to what it is that they're thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is a certain amount of skepticism okay? Is that welcome?
Yes, for me it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I asked a question once to a psychic about if they had rituals or like spiritual rituals that they used in their daily routine, or maybe something that happens before any kind of session where spirit communication is involved. For me, I think there's just something cool and magical about that word ritual, but it could even be something simple like a prayer or something like that. And since that episode, I've had several people contact me telling me how much they loved that question. So I'd like to ask you the same thing. Do you have any rituals and things that you'd like to open up about?
I'm Native American. My dad's Apache Indian, so it is sage for me right before a reading. I will sage myself and I will open myself up and say whatever it is that they need to know. Please let me know. Kind of guide me through this. I just say a little prayer to myself, sage myself, get myself ready to go, and in that zone. I always have sage on me. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, again, I've been known to go into the bathroom at a restaurant and pull a piece of sage out of my pocket when it's gotten so intense to kind of calm myself down. It sure beats walking around with a joint on my ear, kind of waiting for the time to light it up.
That is awesome. So, two of our closest friends here at the Big Seance are Lena and John of Carbon Lilies. And they did an enormous, wonderful 5-part interview with you. You mentioned the fact in that interview that you don't often see the actual physical entity in front of you. And you said you were thankful for that because of some experiences growing up. Can you share a bit about those experiences and maybe why you're so thankful?
I grew up with my mother. And my mom was a single mom and worked day in and day out. I mean, she was always gone. I spent a lot of time. I had to grow up fast. I raised my little sister, who's only 2 years younger than I am. So I had a lot of responsibility put on me. And during that time was the time that my abilities were starting to my medium abilities were really starting to kick in. I had moved from my great grandmother's house to my mother's house to live with her. I'd spent the majority of my time living with my great grandmother, and wasn't really wanting to break that. Again, I'm a creature of habit. I didn't want to leave. Moved into this house in Simi Valley, California. And the very first night that I slept there, the house was so quiet. I woke up instantly and I had goosebumps. I could hear something walking around in the house. And I knew when it was there, and I knew that I can actually, I had visions. Again, they seemed like Polaroid snapshots to me, little snapshots of what was there. And it always showed me not the entity, but where it would be sitting at next to me. And it was always sitting over my face, just looking at me. And kind of in my guides at that time, it told me they're just curious about you. And I always saw a light. To me, it looked like bugs flying towards that light. And I never knew what that was until somebody said, it's kind of like you're the light and they're attracted to you. So that's how it kind of started. And I would literally have to sneak into my sister's room to sleep on her floor just to be around somebody physical. That's how bad it got. And I remember one time I woke up and I heard the door was open to the room, and I had heard the carpet shuffling, and I looked, and it was a little girl, and I thought it was my sister. And this is this was in front of my face. It wasn't that snapshot. And it was a little girl, and I thought it was my sister, and she looked at me and she put her finger to her mouth and was like, shh, like kind of like, be quiet. Because she was waiting. It looked like she was waiting for the bathroom. And I said, well, hurry up and get back to bed. And I turned over. And when I looked up at my sister's bed, and my sister was laying in her bed. As a kid, I had said, I don't want to see that again. And I remember having this conversation with myself the next day saying, I don't care about hearing them, but I don't want to see them anymore. Please don't make me see them anymore.
And can your guides help you with that? Do they kind of turn that part off for you?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times what they'll do, and again, I know it might sound crazy to people when they're hearing this, but a lot of times I'll have discussions with them, and they'll say, no, you need to see this. There's something that you need to see about this person. There's something that you need to, you need, especially when I'm doing house readings, but if it's personal and I'm somewhere and I kind of feel that presence, that's different. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'll know, they will let me know when it's necessary to actually see that.
And I'm sure you've kind of learned to interpret that and know when the important ones are coming, I'm sure.
Yeah. Growing up, again, I didn't know, I knew I had as a kid, I knew I had the ability to tap into people, and to the average person, it would look like I was manipulating people, but I just knew what that person was thinking and what they wanted to hear. So growing up and going to school and being around the kids and the teachers, I'd know when teachers were having issues with their husbands, or, when they're having personal issues and they're bringing it to the class, I was very sensitive to them. So as I was feeling this out and realizing, okay, wow, I'm again, never thinking psychic, just kind of knowing that I knew what to say to that person. Again, to me, it just kind of seemed like it just was just there. So I got involved in things that I shouldn't have got involved in. I used to play Ouija boards because I could actually feel things coming through it. And I actually had one spirit that was attached to me that would talk to me constantly. I started getting involved in spell work. I started realizing that I had the ability to do that, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that they would work it would work whenever I did it. And one time I was burning like 15 candles in my room, doing different spells for different people. Again, not knowing what the hell I was doing. Woke up around 1 a.m, and I felt something in my room, and it was hanging out behind the door. The door was closed. It was hanging out behind the door, and it was trying to be still, but I could hear it breathing. And I was dating somebody at that time, and I woke them up and I said, can you hear that? And they said, hear what? And I said, there's something behind the door. And they said, well, can you see it? And I said, no. I said, but it feels big. It feels really, really tall. And then he could hear the breathing. He had said, I can hear that. I said, it's standing behind, and then it sounded like it was laughing, like kind of like a
oh my
like
God.
under. And I said, and I said, don't move. And he said, okay. And I shit you not, that thing, it didn't run, but it walked really fast. It was shuffling its feet from the door to the edge of my bed. It shuffled so fast, and when it did, it hit the edge of the bed, and the bed moved up against the wall. And I said, "Oh, here it comes," and it was gone. It just left.
Wow. And you connect that with like using, the Ouija board and different things like that?
I had, prior to that, I had been getting dreams. This African American man, he had an accent, like some sort of, I don't know, I'm ignorant to that kind of African accent. And I was messing with Santeria at the time. I'd known some people that were into it, and I was like, well, this is interesting or whatever. I'm feeling this. And this man would come to me in my dream and would tell me, "You're doing the wrong stuff. You should be doing this." And when I went to go tell the person that was teaching me how to do this, she said, "No, that's black magic. That's evil. You need to stay away from that." And she said, "Are you dreaming about this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Maybe you should stop doing this. There other entities are coming to you, and they're picking up that you're doing this." And I said, "Oh, no." And I wanted, I was playing with it back then. I was like, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what happened, how far I can go with it. And it just wasn't, it's not something that I should be doing.
So, is it fair to say you avoid the Ouija board today?
I respect the Ouija board. I have not played it since I was 13, 14. It's not that I stay away from it. I just haven't had the opportunity. I haven't had the opportunity to play with it with somebody that knows exactly what they're doing.
Well, I'm also curious, and it's a common question I ask people too, just because of, the nerdiness that we like to talk about here. But are you a fan of some of the other tools that are commonly, used in paranormal investigation? You ever use any of those things?
No. Mm-mm. Again, I respect it. I respect that part of it. I've never, again, when I go and do a reading at a house, it may sound a little conceited or coming from a place of ego, but it's not. I don't need anything. Like if you ever were to come to an event and I was doing a reading there's nothing on my table other than my business cards.
Mm-hmm. And that's a common answer. It's something I can understand. So are you ever involved in paranormal investigation at all?
Yeah. But I'm very cautious about where I'm going to be doing the investigation at. I've messed around with so many different things that anything that would be demonic. I mean, to say that I would never do it, who knows? But anything like that, again, I've dealt with my own personal demons. And when people say, "Do you believe in heaven and hell?" Absolutely, I do. I've seen things that to this day, that it's just I don't want to bring that type of energy home.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, because it is very, again, I'm only speaking for myself. It is very intense. And when I get it, it lingers through the house for a while. I mean, if I was to go visit your house, and this happens to everybody that I go and see, things end up happening after I leave. Like I'd go visit my sister and her faucet would turn on by itself. Or the walls would crack really loud, or my nephew, who's very intuitive too. I think he's about 4 now, would just be in the room talking to himself after I left. To me personally, I have to be careful on what it is that I get myself involved in. Like going to do this reading on the Tate murder and all that. I'm kind of nervous about it. I always think of Lorraine Warren on The Conjuring when she sees stuff and she's like, "No."
Well, I can't imagine the energy involved in that one. Oh my God. Take a whole bundle of sage for that one.
Yeah. Start eating it.
Yeah. So you wrote a recent blog post where you talk about issues with your own self-image. And I thought that was really powerful and really honest. And it was awesome. And I can very much relate to it, both personally and as a teacher of middle school children. How did that blog post work itself out for you? This was on July 19th.
The media, I mean, the podcast, radio interviews are much more comfortable for me because I'm not around. It's very it's kind of one-on-one, even though there are recording, there's other people in there. When you hit television, And I'm able to see, and we're on radio and podcasts, you can't see yourself. But on television, you can, and I'm so self-conscious with it. I will, when I look at myself, I'll remember exactly what I was thinking at the time that they took that shot. And I have my quirks. I was involved in relationships where it was kind of with people that I shouldn't have been involved in, and so that kind of stuff lingers in my head. And I'm very self-conscious of who I am and in the way that I present myself. And I'm working through it. Again, I'm just like everybody else, but with a different ability, and my own personal demons haunt me, and don't like looking at myself in pictures, don't like taking pictures, don't like to be filmed sometimes, but I'm slowly getting over it. I think that people have that, I think people's minds are going to change when it comes to psychic and the metaphysical world. I think they think, I'm trying to, there's a lot of kids that have these abilities, possess these abilities, that don't know what to do with it. That are struggling with it in school like I did. And to be able to relate to them on that kind of personal level, let them know, hey, I'm not just here for the media aspect of it. I'm here because I'm a real person with a job to do. And I have even though I have this ability, I'm normal, just like you. I have my days where, I want to sit on my pity pot and not do anything. I just want to be able to share that, that it hasn't stopped me, and kind of be a role model for those.
That's cool. Yeah. I have definitely always been someone, just like you were saying, especially when it comes to seeing images of yourself. And there was a time when, hearing my voice would even drive me crazy. And believe it or not, teaching is what broke me free of that. Because especially in middle school, man, there's some things you just get over really quick. And, when I student taught in elementary school, there was this famous moment where I just cried, and I called my mom and said, these kids are so mean. I can't do it, just because, they're so honest, and they just don't think about what they're saying before it comes out. But, and with my kids, one of the classes I teach is music production and technology, and they have to record their voices a lot. And when they get to that classroom, one of the first things that they ask nervously is, do I have to record my voice? And they're so concerned about hearing their voice, because, and it's crazy to me that in 2016, they're still worried about that, hearing their voice.
I have a little intro that I do at events, where it's where they blast it on the project on the screen over there, and it talks about how I came up and this is that. I will not look at it. I can't. I will pretend that I'm on my phone, or I'll pretend to talk to somebody. I just, the sound of my own voice makes me shriek. I'm like, God, is that really what I sound like?
I think it's normal for everybody. I totally get it. And I appreciate that you wrote about it and put that out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, speaking of self-image, what's the best part about being psychic medium Chris Medina?
The best part is meeting all the different people in changing minds. There's nothing more validating or that it just, there's nothing like that feeling of looking at somebody in knowing honestly, like looking at them when they come to you and they're kind of broken, or they they're really unsure, and them walking away and knowing that looking at them and knowing that they know that somebody actually understood them. That's the best part of the job. All I want to do is help. There is no self-gain from this. There's no, open up people's eyes. That's the best part of being psychic Chris Medina, just meeting different people, all different backgrounds, different walks of life, just really, really unique individuals.
I've heard you talk about how readings can be therapeutic. What do you mean by that?
My guides, whoever you want to call them, have a funny way of bringing people to me that have gone that I need to speak to get over certain things that are going on with me. Like I'll have a reading with somebody, and what's going on with me at that time, or things that I need to get over, will be projected into that reading for that person. And they're saying, I'm struggling with this, and that, or whatever. So not only is it therapeutic for that person, but it's also therapeutic for me, because I get to see. I know psychics say this all the time. I can't help myself. It doesn't work that way for me. I mean, I could sit here and I could meditate on lottery numbers all day long, or try to figure out, what the next step is. But for me, I can't. I can't. So they'll tell me this reading, there's going to be something that you need to pay attention to. So make sure you're paying attention to it. Or, they'll send, again, I'm Native American, so I believe in animal totems. They'll send different animals or different signs and symbols during a reading or just prior to the reading or after the reading that helps me out as well. There's always a lesson to be learned when I give a reading to somebody for me. Always.
Do you ever get your own reading from like another psychic?
Yeah, I have that's difficult for me. I don't open up a lot. And I'm kind of, I have to be careful with that when it comes to those kind of people. So I have two really close friends. I have a really good friend that's an astrologer. I'm heavy into astrology that I'll see on a weekly basis to kind of, get myself, figure out what's going on or what's coming, things that I'm picking up psychically, for myself. Like I'll tell her, I know this change is coming, but I'm kind of feeling like this isn't that. And she's like, well, let's bring out your chart. So yeah. And the other person that I had passed away about 3 years ago. So, but yeah, I will, if I'm doing events, psychics will come up and they'll say, you want to do an exchange, and I'll sit there and I'll,
if it feels right, I'm sure.
Exactly. If it feels right. Mm-hmm.
So, you do a lot of interviews and things like that, and mediums, I think, are often asked the same questions, which, a lot of that is understandable with abilities and about intuition. But is there a question that you've always wanted to be asked, but no one ever does?
Oh God, where do I start? The one that I get asked, but I wish people would delve into more, is how being psychic affects. I mean, I did a blog on it. How being psychic affects your relationships, and being involved in a relationship and being psychic. Even when I say relationships, that could be an intimate relationship or just a friendship. It's difficult because I pick up everything. So immediately, I jail, come home, or I'm mentoring a roommate that lives with us. They'll come home, and it's so weird how their energy, how I can pick up on their energy, how it shifts. Like I'll know when they're going to be in a bad mood, or I know when something's bothering them, and then I kind of feel like I have to walk on eggshells with it. So I don't think people realize how difficult it actually is to be psychic and be sensitive sometimes when you have all that going on in your head. It's always constant. I mean, I've when you asked if I got readings from psychics, I've had people that were psychic come up to my table, and again, we'll do an exchange, and I'll say, well, what are you picking up on me? And the biggest thing is, oh, I shut it off when I walked in here. And I'm like, What do you mean? No, I just tuned it out. How can you do that? Yeah, because it will. I will. The other day, I woke up and I could hear. They always get me when I'm asleep. And I woke up, heard myself reciting something that they were telling me to say when I woke up about changes that were coming up for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would be, when I leave my job, I get to just, certain parts of everyone's job, you carry home with you, but for the most part, you get to leave it and take, relax a little bit and have that moment of quiet. So that would be something to just not be able to detach from it, I guess. It'd be hard to understand.
Yeah, I try not to bring my work home with me, but sometimes, I'll get things from, especially a good friend of mine, Heather. You've seen me post stuff on social media with her all the time. My sister, Heather, while she was pregnant with her daughter, it was nonstop with her. They would, her guides or whoever would, she would stress out, and, I'd wake up from a nap and say, you need to calm down. Especially people that I'm really, really close to, I'll just start picking up on things. Even my mentor, when I was touring around with, we had to share a room, and she heard what goes on at night when I'm asleep. All the cracks, all the banging. Again, this is going to sound crazy. I felt myself leaving. I was dozing off. We had taken a nap. It was a long day. I had taken a nap. We both did. And I could feel myself leaving my body, and I shook and I got scared, and there was a big boom in the room. When I felt, and I know it sounds crazy, when I felt myself get back into my body, and the dogs outside started barking crazy. And she woke up. She said, what the hell was that? I said, it was just me. She said, what do you mean it was you? I said, that's what happens.
Wow. So it wasn't just something you heard.
No, she heard it too. She shook. She jumped up. Dogs started barking and everything. I said, it's fine. It's fine. So I said, I got scared. I said, I felt myself leaving. I said, and I wasn't all the way asleep yet. I said, and I woke myself up.
So I know you must have some really awesome experiences and stories from readings you've done. Do you want to tell us about any of the memorable ones?
I have to say the biggest one that I get all the time is when I do medium readings and they're asking about, the first thing they think about is that when that person passes away, I've talked about this before, they think that, they automatically get their wings and they're in heaven and they're doing whatever it is they need to be doing. I had a reading one time where this guy was racist in his regular life and was racist on the other side. I mean, the first thing that she said, well, are you picking up anything on my dad? And I'm hearing all this cussing going on. I can't believe she's effing talking to somebody like you. And, what the F is wrong with her? And, make one thing straight, make one thing clear. The only reason why I'm talking to you, he said, faggot, is because she wants to hear what I have to say. I would never. And I asked her, I said, she's like, are you getting stuff? And I said, yeah. I said, but I just want to make sure this is the right person. She said, what are you getting? And I said, I'm getting a lot of racist statements coming out of this man. And she said, that's my dad. She said, what is he? She's like, is he making fun of your sexual orientation? And I said, oh yeah, yeah. I said, I've gotten called the F word quite a few times as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about him, and he's kind of coming in. But yeah, that's the one where I always laugh sometimes because they'll come through just as they were before. Some of them have learned their lessons, they've passed on, but if they were miserable here, they still carry that over with them.
So does anybody ever, graduate on the other side into this, kind of enlightenment, or do you find that it's that way for everyone?
No, that's only happened to me like maybe 3 or 4 times that I've done medium readings. Sometimes they come through and they're I did CBS Sports Radio, and one of the hosts on there was very skeptical. He is skeptical and nervous. He did not want me to look at him. He said, what are you looking at? And I was like, I'm just trying to get a feel for you. And he said, but you're not doing anything to me, are you? And I said, no. I said, I have to look at you. I said, just have to just see what I'm getting. And he said, don't tell me anything bad. I said, no. I said, I would never do that. I said, instead of giving you a psychic reading, I said, let me give you a medium reading. And he said, okay. And I said, well, tell me if this makes sense to you. I said, there's a woman on the other side that's coming through and she wants me to thank your mother for her. She said to thank your mother for taking care of her. I said, and the one thing she knows that the one thing she wants me to tell you that would confirm her identity is that she said she's still thinking about her small dog that she took everywhere with her. And he lost it. He was like, oh my God. So they'll come through and she was dying to get that out there to her mother. I guess his mother had been thinking about this woman for a long time and didn't have the closure that she needed, that she had prior to this woman dying. And she wanted to make sure that the woman knew that she was there for her. The woman did, thanked her, and just moved on.
This is random. Do you have like a snapshot in your brain of what the other side looks like? Sylvia Browne is famous for giving these elaborate descriptions of what the other side is like. Is it different for everybody, or do you get to see any of that?
It's different for whenever I do those readings, they're in the moment here. They'll send me pictures of what it was like when they were alive. I don't ever get glimpses of heaven or hell, for that matter. It's always glimpses of what they were like in their life and what they're thinking about and what they want me to tell that person, whether it's through words or through pictures. Like I'll tell this person, I'm getting this. He keeps showing me this picture of you and this horse, and you're on it and he's petting it. And she's like, oh, that's not my fireplace. Yeah. Or I did a house reading where this woman was a little out there. She would burn sage every day. Cleanse the house, but before she went to bed at night, she would say, any spirit that wants to come through to speak to me is welcome. Anybody that wants to come through, come see me now. So when she asked me to do the house reading for her, I went through the house and there was a lot of energy there. I went to her bedroom, and when I walked in there was a Polaroid snapshot of all these spirits in the room. I mean, so many that there was you couldn't even see the carpet. I couldn't see the walls or anything. There were so many people in there, but one woman stood out, which was the great grandmother, and she had invited that woman into her house. But prior to that woman's passing, she was suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's. She had problems going to the bathroom and stuff. In that, I was picking up on that. When I say that, I'm talking about smells. Mm-hmm. What that woman was like. She kept looking at me. When she looked at me, she wouldn't look directly in my eyes. She seemed ashamed. She seemed disoriented. The room started to shift. I started to get like kind of vertigo type things. I actually fell to my knees and was like gagging on the floor. It was too much between the smells of that old lady's perfume to her bathroom issues into the smell of the sage. I got out. I was so irritated when I got out of there. I yelled at the woman. I said, what the hell are you doing in that house? And she said, what do you mean? I said, are you inviting? I said, and my guys were telling me again, she's inviting them here. They showed me what she was doing at night. I said, are you doing like a ritual at night, inviting spirits to come to your house? She said, yeah, I always tell them this is a place, this is a comfortable spot here. They're safe here. I said, you need to stop doing, there's too much energy in this house. You've attracted everything here. I said, and what they're doing is you've attracted, and I know this is going to sound weird, sick people. I said, this is the house of the sick.
Well, was she not tuning into the fact that they were there, or did she know they were there?
She knew that they were there. But see, here's what I have an issue with too, and I'll wrap this up really quick. Anytime you start messing with things like that, and you start attracting things that are kind of, that are crazy, it does something to you. And what it did is I found out that it really changed who this woman was by doing that. Before she had quit her job, she had turned more hippie, she was smoking a lot of dope. And it changed too by her doing that and inviting that stuff. It did something to her. So again, house readings and things like that, I got to be real careful because again, I'm sensitive to even smells. In the way that person was, I mean, her husband was living there. I mean, I kept hearing his office door slamming shut, and I kept hearing him say, "When this door is shut, that means stay away." And I even asked her, so that's what he says all the time.
That's one of the reasons why. I mean, there are a couple of reasons why I got out of paranormal investigation, but one of them was just that every now and then you would get. I would just need to go make a visit, a house visit. And that uncomfortableness of, do I take somebody with me? What am I walking into? Are they a hoarder? Mm-hmm. And I walked into just some kind of uncomfortable situations and I was like, I am out. I cannot, this is not for me.
And I hate to, yeah, I hate to be uncomfortable too. I hate going in somewhere because it shows on my face. I can't help it. I'm one of those people that I wear I really wear my expression. So if they have like tons of cats or they're a little out there, I get really uncomfortable. So again, I'm real careful on where I go and do these house readings and what I'm getting myself into because again, I've seen hell. I've gotten so close to where again, I was doing things that were just not what I was supposed to be doing. And I got visited and dreamt of it and actually witnessed an exorcism that ended up being somebody that was going through it in real life and hearing, I mean, I cuss a lot. I got a really bad mouth. And the thing that this kid was saying really messed me up just watching it. And I woke up the next morning and it was so hot in the dream from the flames and where this was taking place that I woke up and I woke up in my eyes, from my forehead to around the bottom of my eyes to the bridge of my nose was sort of touch. It felt like I got burned.
Man.
Yeah, I can go on and on all the stories that I have. It's just, yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder, when's the book coming?
That's coming soon, actually.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, I've got things. I just want to, everybody goes the book route right off the bat. I kind of want to put some more experience under my belt and get myself out there, do more media, get that buzz going so everybody can look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, last big question, and sometimes I joke about how it's the most important question, but we encourage being a nerd here. And so outside of being a psychic medium, what kind of nerd are you? Oh
God, I'm a Netflix and Hulu nerd. Yeah, and a junk food junkie. And I'm gonna put this out there too. I'm also a bit of a comic book nerd too.
Oh, okay. So you're coming out as a comic nerd.
I'm coming out as a comic nerd. Jay is a huge comic book nerd, and I have to admit, it kind of rubbed off on me. So I do that in my spare time. And I'm a cook. I love to cook. I mean, I'm a Taurus. I love to cook. I got 2 kids. Always making something for everybody, and just kind of, when I have downtime, I really look forward to it. It's just what it is. It's downtime. It's for me to get back in touch with myself and kind of center myself.
So where can we find you, and how do people contact you if they're interested in a reading or just kind of following your work? Give us, and what's coming up, give us some promotion here.
Okay. People can reach out to me on my website, ChrisMedina.guide. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Psychic Chris M. Right now, I'm getting ready to head out to Los Angeles. I got a couple big things going on over there. And then hopefully stay busy throughout the rest of the year. I mean, it's always something different. Jay does a lot of my bookings. He does the majority of my bookings. It changes every week. But LA is the next stop. And then, I don't know, I guess I'll post up on social media.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, so social media is a good place for people to follow you and see what you're up to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you rock. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseance.com. Just click on the Big Seance podcast logo or find it in the menu. You can also find and subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, and iHeartRadio. Do you have any comments or feedback? Go to bigseance.com/feedback to learn how to get your voice in a future show. Or you can call my feedback line, 7755-TELL-ME. That's 775-583-5563. Interested in learning how to promote and share the podcast? Go to bigseance.com/share. Thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.